My last issue is one that I probably shouldn't have saved for the end because it's going to get me really animated and agitated. We've had an opportunity to talk about the BLM's Eastern Interior Resource Management Plan. This is the management plan up in the interior of the state that will withdraw close to 700,000 acres in the district from mineral entry. This is something that the small miners in the 40-mile district are just beside themselves about. These are small operators in an extraordinarily remote part of the country. And to them, they're looking at this proposal and saying, decisions that are being made 4,000 miles from here, we can't comprehend. As you know, there's a meeting in Chicken on the 29th of May. You had been invited to attend. I had asked that you attend. I understand that you will not be, but I understand that Bud Cripley is going up. Is anybody from Washington, D.C. going up? Do you know?
So I'm looking at my schedule to see if it's possible to go.
That would be fabulous. That would be fabulous. I think it would be extraordinarily important for you to hear directly from the men and women on the ground in their place as to what this means. And the frustration here is that you've got a proposal to withdraw, again, nearly 700,000 acres in the 40-mile district. And you have these miners, and not just miners, you have Alaskans that say, wait a minute, tell me how this does not violate the intent of ANILCA and the No More Clause when you have in place a proposal like this. And I look at it and say, I don't see how, other than a difference in terminology, this isn't just a flagrant, in-your-face violation of the No More Clause under ANILCA. And then it's not just the Eastern Interior Land Plan, it's this current planning effort for the Bering Sea Western Interior Area Plan. These are areas that are being proposed for set aside for environmental protection as areas of critical environmental concern, ACECs. ACECs, I can tell you most people in Alaska have never heard of an ACEC, but the proposals that we have here in terms of limitations on opportunity for access are really quite extraordinary. Proposing to place off limits most any form of development. Now, I do understand that the current version of the plan reduces from 11 to 8 the number of existing ACECs in Western Alaska, but it also proposes to create 8 new conservation areas. Some, like the Unalakleet River ACEC, are pretty large. You have another, the new sheefish spawning area just south of McGrath, surrounding the big river. You can't see it from here, but you look at the map here along the rivers, and the impact for any level of development is considerable. It's beyond considerable. It will potentially block the route for a pipeline to bring any kind of an energy to the proposed Donlin Creek mine, an opportunity that the folks in that region have been keyed in intently. But in order to access the mineral resources there, you've got to have some form of energy other than just diesel. But again, we have we've got provisions within ANILCA that make it illegal. You cannot do it. You cannot withdraw more than 5,000 acres in Alaska for any single use without congressional approval. But under many of the agencies pending ACECs, you're administratively affecting far more than 5,000 acres for single purposes, whether it's the sheefish spawning, even though their original spawning areas are actually outside of these proposed ACECs. So I wander around with a map in my everyday folder that it's what gets me up in the morning. It's what reminds me of my purpose here in the United States Senate. And these are Alaskan lands and waters that are withdrawn from development. And it's things like wilderness and NPRA withdrawals and withdrawals in the new North Aleutian Basin and critical habitat proposed and wilderness and national park and federal lands. And the colors just make a brilliant patchwork. But what this then does is take that patchwork and muddy all the colors so that it is even more restrictive, so that in those areas where we thought we might have an opportunity for a small placer miner to engage in a little bit of income, or for a community to perhaps have an opportunity for some jobs in a region or for some cheaper energy in a region. But if we're not going to be able to even allow for a pipeline corridor, because now we have all of these ACECs, we're going to be looking at the ESA, the Endangered Species Act, and critical habitat as chump change, because everything else around the state is going to be locked off. And I know I sound apocalyptic, but you have to appreciate the frustration, the anxiety. We felt that we had in place laws that are specific and unique to Alaska. Alaska is the A in Anilka. And we thought we had a pretty good understanding as to what the No More Clause meant. And yet what we're finding now is our federal agencies are coming up with changes in semantics, basically, to get around what was clearly a well-defined law. When it says that you cannot withdraw more than 5,000 acres without congressional approval, we kind of thought that it meant what it said. And so now we're dealing with areas of critical environmental concern, but it effectively puts you again in a state of de facto wilderness, not unlike what the president did with his proposal up in the Anwar. So, you know, it seems like any way you slice it, any term that you want to call it, what it ends up being is withdrawal, restriction, and an inability of a state and a people to access a resources that we were promised at statehood, land that we were promised at statehood. So we're feeling a little burned. I would encourage you to go to Alaska and to hear the people. And I thank you for the trips that you have made. And I know that they're not easy because Alaskans are pretty unfiltered. We'll tell you what's on our mind. But I think that that's important. I think that that's important because this is our life, this is our livelihood, and we want to make sure that our lands are cared for. And we're kind of proud of how we have done it over the decades. But sometimes we feel like you all are trying to protect us from ourselves. And that makes us pretty angry. So I would encourage you to go to Chicken. I would encourage you to listen to the people on the ground. We have some things that we need to be working on together clearly. I appreciate the efforts that you're making on the cleanup and the obligation that the federal government has there. We've got some other things that we need to do, but we must address some of these withdrawal issues that are strangling Alaskans. So I appreciate your attention to that as well.
And it will have my attention, and let me say thank you both for your significant investment in agencies or in issues related to the Bureau of Land Management and the Department of the Interior. The personal attention is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we